Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Last Tuesday evening at RPM Italian in Chicago's River North, I watched my girlfriend of 2 years execute what she believed would be the ultimate relationship power move, publicly rejecting my proposal to force me into buying a more expensive ring and groveling for a second chance. The problem? I had not proposed yet. And after what I had overheard the day before, I never would. My name is Terrell Jackson. I am 34 years old, a software architect who used to believe that if you loved someone and treated them well, the rest would work itself out. That night at RPM Italian taught me that love is not the only thing some people are measuring. It started Monday evening when I stopped by my girlfriend's apartment to drop off her anniversary gift early. Her name was Raven Taylor. I had found a vintage cookbook she had mentioned wanting months ago. The kind of thoughtful gesture that used to make her eyes light up before social media became her primary lens for viewing our relationship. She had been talking recently about aesthetic kitchens and romantic date night dinners, and I thought the cookbook would quietly support that without turning it into content. Raven texted that she was running late from the gym and told me to let myself in and wait. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of the shower running and voices coming from her laptop on the kitchen counter. The screen was propped up on a stand next to a half-finished iced coffee and a ring light that was not turned on yet. I was about to close the laptop out of respect when I recognized one of the voices. It was Sierra Morrison, Raven's newest friend, a lifestyle influencer with 50,000 followers who had somehow become her closest confidant in the past 6 months. The video chat was still active, and I could see 4 faces on the screen, clearly wrapping up what seemed like an important planning session. "So, we are all clear on tomorrow night," Sierra was saying, her voice carrying that performative enthusiasm influencers use when they're excited about content opportunities. "Taylor, you were at the table by the window with the good camera angle. Candace, you are positioned near the bar where you can capture his face. Janelle and I will be at the corner booth. That gives us full coverage from every angle." "I still cannot believe we are actually doing this," came Janelle's voice, younger and more excitable than the others. "This is going to be absolutely epic. The drama, the tension, the payoff, it is perfect." Something in the conspiratorial tone made me sit down at the counter instead of leaving. Something made me keep listening, even as my stomach began to tighten in a way I did not like. "It is going to be absolutely perfect," Raven's voice chimed in from the bathroom, slightly distant, but clear enough. "Terrell has been hinting about proposing for weeks now. He will definitely do it tomorrow night at our anniversary dinner. He is not exactly subtle when he is planning something romantic." The casual confidence in her voice did not match reality. I had planned to propose next month in private, not at a restaurant. "And when he does," Candace Patterson finished, her corporate lawyer voice crisp and calculated, "you rejected in front of everyone. Expressed disappointment about the ring, about the lack of planning and effort, about feeling undervalued in the relationship. Make sure everyone in that restaurant hears every word. The key is making him feel embarrassed enough that he will do better next time." My hand froze on the edge of the laptop. My blood ran cold as the implications hit me. "My cousin tried this exact strategy with her boyfriend last year," Candace continued, clearly warming to her role as the group's strategic advisor. "He picked out this absolutely pathetic half-carat diamond from some budget jeweler. She rejected it right there at the restaurant. Told him she could not accept something that did not properly reflect his commitment to their relationship or his earning potential. He was so mortified in front of all their friends and family that he bought her a 2.5-carat upgrade the very next week and reproposed at a 5-star resort in Napa. She trained him to step up his game. And we all know how my proposal went viral," Sierra added with obvious pride. 2 million views across video platforms, features in 3 different online magazines, and I gained 15,000 followers from that single post. "Raven, once we get this footage edited and posted with the right captions and hashtags, you're going to absolutely blow up on social media. The narrative of a woman who knows her worth and refuses to settle for anything less than she deserves. That is exactly the kind of content people are craving right now. It is empowering. It is bold. It is conversation starting. Just make absolutely sure you get his face when it happens," Raven said. I could hear the genuine excitement building in her voice. "I want to capture the exact moment when he realizes he completely messed up, That moment of recognition when he understands he did not meet my expectations. That is going to be the money shot for the whole video. "Oh, we will get everything," Taylor said, her social media manager expertise evident. "Do not worry. I am bringing my professional camera, not just relying on phone footage. We will have multiple angles, perfect lighting from the restaurant ambience, and I will edit it to maximize the emotional impact. This is going to be absolutely cinematic when we're done with it." "What if he actually did manage to buy a nice ring?" Janelle asked, a hint of doubt creeping into her enthusiasm. "I mean, what if he surprises you and gets something really impressive?" "He did not," Raven said with absolute certainty, and the dismissive confidence in her voice stung more than anything else I had heard. "Trust me, I know exactly how much Terrell makes as a software architect. I have seen his pay stubs. He has been dropping hints about using his grandmother's ring, which is sweet in a sentimental way, but totally outdated and frankly embarrassing. It is this Art Deco piece from the 1950s that his grandfather bought on a teacher's salary. There is no way I am accepting some antique when I could have something modern, substantial, and actually worthy of social media. This public rejection will be the wake-up call he needs to understand what I actually deserve from this relationship." The shower shut off. I heard Raven telling her friends she had to go, promising to text updates throughout the next evening. I carefully closed the laptop without being detected, set the vintage cookbook on her counter with a short note, "Happy early anniversary. Hope you enjoy this," and left her apartment before she emerged from the bathroom. In my car, I sat for a full 10 minutes in the parking lot, processing everything I had just heard. My hands gripped the steering wheel as my mind worked through the implications of what had sounded like a scripted scene rather than a real relationship. The woman I had been planning to propose to next month in a private and deeply meaningful moment had just orchestrated an elaborate public humiliation scheme designed to manipulate me into buying her a more expensive ring. She had recruited her entire friend group, assigned them filming positions like it was a professional video shoot, discussed my salary like I was an automatic teller machine with legs, and planned to reject my grandmother's ring, the one that had symbolized 54 years of genuine marriage built on love and trust, because it was not impressive enough for her followers. When I got home, I pulled the small velvet box from my desk drawer where I had been keeping it safe. Inside was the Art Deco diamond ring that had been on my grandmother's finger from the day my grandfather proposed in 1952 until the day she died last year. My grandfather had saved for months to buy it on a high school teacher's modest salary. They built a beautiful life together on authenticity, communication, and genuine love, not carrots, price tags, or social media validation. I remember my grandmother once telling me, "If you ever give this ring to someone, make sure she loves you more than she loves being seen." I looked at that ring for a long time, thinking about what it represented, about how many family stories were tied to it, about the simple photographs in old albums where my grandparents were standing in front of a plain apartment building, smiling at each other like it was the most glamorous place in the world. Then I put the box back in the drawer and closed it. Raven would never see this ring now. She had lost that privilege the moment she decided our relationship was content to be produced rather than a partnership to be cherished. I was not going to confront her about what I had overheard. I was not going to give her the opportunity to lie, twist things, or spin the situation into another performance. A better idea was slowly forming in my mind. If Raven wanted to stage a public performance, if she wanted to test me in front of an audience, if she wanted to see how I would react to calculated manipulation, then she was about to learn something very important about the man she had been dating for 2 years. I was not the type of person who begged or pleaded for anyone's attention or approval. I was not going to dance like a trained puppet for her and her friends' entertainment, and I certainly was not going to give them the dramatic, desperate reaction they were expecting and hoping to capture on camera. Instead, I decided I would let her performance run right into a wall of reality she had not planned for. I slept badly that night, but by morning, my decision felt solid and strangely calm. The next evening, I arrived at RPM Italian 15 minutes early for our 7:30 reservation. The restaurant's exposed brick walls, industrial chic aesthetic, and Edison bulb lighting created exactly the kind of romantic, upscale atmosphere that Raven had specifically requested when I had made the reservation 2 weeks earlier. It was the perfect setting for what she believed would be her viral moment. The host guided me to our table. I took a moment to let my eyes adjust and scan the room. I spotted them immediately. They were not nearly as subtle as they thought they were. Sierra and Janelle were seated at the corner booth, trying to look casual while obviously positioned for optimal viewing angles. Candace was perched at the bar nursing an expensive cocktail, her phone already positioned on the bar top, angled discreetly toward our table. Taylor had claimed a window table. Her professional camera was partially obscured by a strategically placed menu, but clearly ready for action. They were all dressed nicely, trying to blend in with the other diners, but I could see them exchanging glances and checking their phones, coordinating their surveillance like amateur spies planning a heist. My phone buzzed with a text from Raven. Running 5 minutes late. So excited for tonight. Red heart, red heart, red heart. The hearts made me laugh quietly to myself, though there was no humor in it. I ordered a glass of wine and watched them watch me. Candace checked her phone repeatedly, probably in a group chat coordinating their positions. Taylor adjusted her camera angle slightly, making sure she had a clear shot of our reserved table. Sierra kept glancing toward the entrance, waiting for Raven's arrival. They had planned this so carefully, assigned everyone roles and positions, discussed camera angles and content strategy. They had absolutely no idea that I knew every single detail of their scheme. Raven arrived at 7:35, looking absolutely stunning in a dress I had never seen before, sleek, form-fitting, deep emerald green, clearly purchased specifically for tonight's planned content. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, her jewelry sparkling just enough to catch the light. She kissed my cheek warmly, slid gracefully into her seat across from me, and immediately suggested we take a photo together for memories. The irony of that phrase was not lost on me. Of course, I said with an easy smile. Let's make a good one. She leaned in, tilting her head at the angle she had practiced 1,000 times in front of mirrors, and we took a few photos. I held the menus, watched her subtly angle her phone so the background would look as elegant as possible, and thought about how different this evening would look from her perspective and mine. Dinner progressed normally at first, at least on the surface. We ordered appetizers, the burrata and the octopus, and shared stories about our work weeks. She described an influencer event she had attended, going into detail about the decorations and the gift bags. I told her about a project deadline and a difficult bug we had finally solved. We laughed at inside jokes that had developed over 2 years together. To any outside observer, we looked like a happy couple celebrating an important milestone. But I noticed things that probably no one else did. Her eyes kept drifting to her friends' tables, checking to make sure they were ready. Occasionally, Sierra would give her a tiny nod, or Taylor would adjust her camera lens. Raven positioned her phone face up on the table, screen occasionally lighting up with what I assumed were group chat messages. She kept steering our conversation toward our future together, long-term commitment, and what the next chapter looks like for us. All phrases that sounded natural enough, but were clearly building toward her planned moment. This restaurant is so beautiful, she said as our entrees arrived. She had ordered the branzino. I had gotten the short rib. You always know exactly how to make moments feel special and memorable. She gave my hand a soft squeeze across the table, her eyes shining with what would look like genuine affection on camera. I try my best to show you how much you mean to me, I replied calmly, taking a sip of wine. My voice sounded steady even in my own ears, which surprised me. Her expression shifted slightly, a practiced transition I might not have noticed if I did not know what was coming. A touch of hesitation, a hint of concern, the beginning of a speech she had rehearsed. Do you, though? She asked, her tone soft but edged with doubt. I mean, do you really? Here we go, I thought. Here is where the performance begins. Is something on your mind? I asked with careful neutrality, giving her exactly the opening she needed. She took a deliberate breath, her eyes flickering briefly to Sierra's table before returning to mine. Terrell, we have been together for 2 years now. That is a really significant milestone in any relationship. You know, it represents a serious investment of time and emotion. Her voice carried just enough for nearby tables to hear without sounding like she was projecting. It absolutely is, I agreed readily. I nodded, as if I had no idea where this was going. She continued, and I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about what comes next for us. About expectations and commitment and the future. She paused for calculated effect. About whether we are really on the same page about what real partnership and commitment actually look like in practice. I noticed the restaurant around us getting gradually quieter. Other diners were starting to pick up on the shift in energy at our table, the way conversations tend to pause when they sense drama unfolding nearby. What does real partnership look like to you? I asked with genuine curiosity. I wanted to hear every word of the script she had chosen over honesty. She launched into what was clearly a carefully rehearsed speech. She talked about friends getting engaged with elaborate proposals and meaningful gestures. She mentioned feeling like she needed to see more concrete evidence of commitment. She brought up wanting to feel truly valued and prioritized in the relationship. It was actually a fairly good performance. I could see why she had practiced it with her friends. Her voice held just the right mix of vulnerability and strength, hurt and hope. Sometimes I wonder if you really understand what this means to me, Raven said, eyes glistening slightly. Seeing people I know getting engaged in ways that feel thoughtful and grand at the same time, it makes me question whether I'm asking for too much or just asking for what I deserve. She glanced again toward the corner booth, where Sierra was watching with focused intensity. When she finally finished her monologue, dessert arrived. It was a special anniversary plate I had pre-ordered with Happy 2 Years, written in chocolate sauce. She smiled that perfect, practiced smile that I had seen on her social media more times than I could count. "This is so beautiful, Terrell," she said. "You really do think of everything, do you not?" The words were sweet, but now I could hear the subtext. This is the cue. I reached into my jacket pocket. Her eyes immediately lit up with anticipation. At the nearby tables, I saw phones subtly shifting position, angling toward us. This was it. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, planning for, positioning themselves to capture. I could almost feel the collective intake of breath from the room. I pulled out the leather check presenter containing my credit card and calmly signed the receipt, adding a generous tip for our server, who had provided excellent service all evening. Raven's face went completely blank, her rehearsed smile freezing and then slowly fading. The confusion that crossed her features was genuine and unplanned. Is there something else?" she asked, her voice tightening. "Like what?" I asked pleasantly, tucking my credit card back into my wallet and sliding the check presenter back to the edge of the table. I took a sip of water, as if we were having a normal dinner. "Terrell." Her voice dropped to what she probably thought was a private stage whisper, but it was definitely loud enough for nearby tables to hear clearly. "We have been together for 2 years. I think it is completely reasonable to expect certain milestones at this point in a serious relationship." I watched the people at the bar turn slightly toward us, their attention now fully drawn in. "What milestone specifically are you thinking about?" I asked. She had to say it directly now, her script falling apart faster than she could adjust. "An engagement," she said finally. "A proposal. A ring. The next step forward in our commitment to each other." Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke. I set down my wine glass and looked at her calmly. "You want to get engaged?" "Well, yes, of course I do," she said, frustration and urgency starting to mix. "Do you not want that too?" "I thought proposals were supposed to happen when both people felt genuinely ready," I said, "not because there is some arbitrary timeline or external pressure." She was visibly losing control of her carefully planned script, forced to improvise in a story she had expected to direct. "I'm not demanding anything or giving you an ultimatum," Raven insisted. "I'm just trying to communicate that if you were planning to propose tonight, I want you to know that I have certain expectations about what that should look like, about what it should represent." "What expectations exactly?" I asked, keeping my voice level and curious. Around us, the restaurant had grown so quiet that I could hear the faint clink of silverware from a far corner. "The ring should properly reflect your commitment to me and to our relationship," she said. "It should reflect your earning potential and career success. It should reflect what I actually mean to you as a partner." She was digging herself deeper with every word, and I could see her friends shifting uncomfortably at their respective tables. "How much should the ring cost?" I asked directly. It is not specifically about the cost exactly," she replied. "Then what is it about exactly?" I asked. Raven's face flushed red. She reached into her designer purse and pulled out a small ring box, one I immediately recognized as a cheap prop from the jewelry store she had casually mentioned browsing last week. She placed it on the white tablecloth between us with deliberate ceremony, hands perfectly positioned for any camera capturing the scene. "I found this in your apartment last week when I was looking for something," she said, her voice now carrying clearly across the restaurant that had gone almost completely silent. "I'm guessing you were planning to propose tonight at our anniversary dinner. But Terrell, I need to be honest with you." She paused, then added, "I cannot accept this. It is not what I envisioned for this important milestone in my life. It does not reflect what I need to see from a serious commitment." The restaurant had gone completely quiet now. Every conversation had trailed off. Every eye in the place was on us. Her friends had their phones, clearly visible, recording openly without any pretense of subtlety. Other diners had even pulled out their own phones, sensing that something dramatic and unusual was unfolding. I picked up the small box and examined it with genuine curiosity, turning it over in my hands. I opened it slowly and looked at the obviously cheap costume jewelry ring inside. It probably cost her $20 at most. "This is very interesting," I said conversationally. "What do you mean?" she asked, a new note of fear creeping into her voice. "This is not mine," I said evenly. "I have never seen this ring before in my life." Her face drained of all color. I found it in your apartment," she stammered. "In your desk drawer." "Where specifically did you find it?" I asked. "Because I can tell you with absolute certainty that I do not own this ring, and I have never seen it before this exact moment." She was stammering now, her lawyer-rehearsed speech completely abandoned. I assumed. "Did you buy this ring yourself, Raven?" I asked. The silence in the restaurant was suffocating. "Did you purchase this cheap ring specifically so you could publicly reject it in front of all these people and your friends with their cameras?" I could see her friends exchanging panicked looks across the restaurant. Taylor's expensive camera had stopped recording. Sierra was staring intently at her glass of wine, like it might offer an escape route. Janelle looked like she desperately wanted to disappear through the floor. Only Candace maintained some composure, though even she looked unsettled. "I do not know what you are talking about," Raven whispered, all the confidence and performance energy completely drained from her voice. I calmly pulled out my phone and opened it to the voice memo application. I did not actually have a recording, but she had no way of knowing that. "Should I play the recording from your video chat yesterday afternoon?" I asked quietly, but loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "The one where you and your friends planned this entire scene in detail. Where Candace talked about her cousin manipulating her boyfriend into upgrading her engagement ring. Where Sierra coached you on getting viral video content. Where you discussed my exact salary and what you thought I could afford to spend. Where you called my grandmother's ring an embarrassing antique that was not worthy of your standards." Raven's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with genuine shock and fear. "Terrell, please do not," she said, tears already gathering. I stood up slowly, my voice carrying clearly across the now silent restaurant. "My sincere apologies to everyone here for the disruption to your evening," I said. "I want to be clear. There will not be a proposal tonight. In fact, there will not be one at all." I turned back to Raven, speaking loud enough for everyone to hear, but keeping my voice calm and measured. "You plan to reject a fake proposal that you staged yourself with a prop ring you purchased to manipulate me into buying you a more expensive ring. You recruited your friends to film the entire thing for social media content. You discussed my salary and what you calculated I could afford like I am a financial instrument instead of a person. You turned what should have been a genuine, intimate moment between two people who love each other into a performance for likes and follower counts." I gestured toward her friends' tables, where they were all frozen in various states of mortification. "And they are all here, positioned at different tables with their cameras and phones filming everything, exactly like you planned yesterday." Taylor immediately lowered her camera below the table. Janelle looked on the verge of tears. Candace's professional composure had completely shattered. Sierra stood up, trying to salvage something from the wreckage. "This is completely inappropriate, Terrell," she said. "You are embarrassing her in public." I looked at her steadily. "I'm embarrassing her by refusing to play along with her manipulation scheme," I replied. "Is that what you mean?" Candace approached our table, her lawyer instincts kicking in. "All she wanted was for you to show that you are serious about the relationship and the future by buying her a more expensive ring that meets her standards," she said. "That is your definition of showing seriousness?" I asked. "A ring that meets social media standards." Taylor joined them, her expensive camera abandoned at her table. You are making this into something way bigger than it needs to be, she said nervously. Bigger than a staged public rejection, filmed for viral content. I asked. Bigger than discussing my salary and calculating what ring I can afford like you were shopping for a car. Bigger than calling my grandmother's 54-year marriage symbol an embarrassing antique. Janelle was openly crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. We were just trying to help her get the proposal she deserves, she said. Her voice shook. Help with what exactly? I asked, looking at each of them in turn. Teaching her that love is transactional, that relationships are performances for strangers to consume, that manipulation and dishonesty are acceptable tactics, that a person's worth is measured by what they can buy rather than how they treat people. I turned back to Raven, softening my voice slightly, but maintaining absolute clarity. If you wanted a proposal, you could have talked to me privately about it. If you felt undervalued in our relationship, you could have told me directly in a mature conversation. If you had specific expectations about an engagement ring, we could have discussed them together like adults, I continued. But instead, you chose manipulation. You chose deception. You chose performance over authenticity. You chose to value content and follower counts over actual intimacy and trust. It was not supposed to go like this, she said, tears streaming down her face, her carefully applied makeup running. How exactly was it supposed to go? I asked. I was supposed to grovel in front of everyone, beg you to reconsider, promise to buy you something more expensive that meets your arbitrary standards, get down on my knees and plead. She looked at me desperately. You were supposed to show that you really love me, she said. And you just showed me that you do not actually understand what love is, I replied. Real love does not require tests or games or manipulation. Real love does not need to be performed for an audience or captured for content. Real love is built on trust, honesty, and genuine connection. All things you chose to discard when you planned this scheme. I pulled on my jacket calmly. Your friends can handle your portion of the bill tonight, I said quietly. I'm sure they will have plenty of footage to edit and post with whatever narrative they want to create. She grabbed my arm desperately. Please do not do this here. Not in front of all these people, Raven begged. You chose here, I reminded her. You specifically chose this public setting. You chose to make this a performance with an audience. You chose to involve all these people by staging a scene. The only difference between what you planned and what is actually happening is that I am not following your script. I gently but firmly removed her hand from my arm and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I could hear her collapse into her chair, her friends rushing over to surround her, other diners buzzing with shocked conversation and commentary. A few people were actually applauding quietly. Several were still filming on their phones, though now they were capturing something very different from what Raven had intended. Outside on West Kinsey Street, the cool Chicago night air felt like a relief after the thick tension of the restaurant. I had made it maybe half a block when I heard running footsteps behind me. Terrell, wait, please, Raven called. I turned around. She had followed me outside, mascara streaking down her face, her friends trailing behind her like guilty children who had been caught doing something they knew was wrong. Can we please talk about this privately? She asked desperately, her voice breaking. What is left to say? I asked. It was not my idea, she blurted. Sierra suggested it initially. She said it worked for Candace's cousin. I just wanted you to see how serious I am about our future together. I wanted you to understand what this relationship means to me. By staging a fake rejection? I asked. By manipulating me through public humiliation? That is how you demonstrate seriousness. She shook her head, crying harder. I love you, she said. I made a terrible mistake. Can you not see that? You did not make a mistake, Raven, I said. Mistakes are accidents. Things that happen in moments of poor judgment without premeditation. You made a deliberate choice. Multiple choices, actually, over multiple days of planning and coordination. You recruited accomplices. You bought a prop. You assigned camera positions. You rehearsed your lines. You discussed strategy and content goals. That is not a mistake. That is a campaign. Sierra stepped forward, trying once again to assert some authority. Terrell, you are being incredibly rigid and unforgiving about this situation, she said. I looked at her with something between pity and disbelief. Am I? I asked quietly. Candace joined in, her professional voice returning. All relationships need some drama and tension To keep them vital and alive, she said. This kind of testing is completely normal in modern relationships. Is it normal to buy a fake ring to reject? I asked directly. Is it normal to recruit friends to film your partner's expected humiliation for social media content? Is it normal to discuss someone's salary and calculate what ring they can afford like you're negotiating a purchase? Is it normal to call your partner's family heirlooms embarrassing antiques? Taylor spoke up weakly. We were just supporting our friend and trying to help her get what she wants, she said. You were enabling toxic, manipulative behavior, I replied. There is a significant difference between supporting someone and helping them hurt people. Janelle was sobbing openly now, her voice choked. We just want her to get the proposal she deserves, she repeated. The kind of moment every woman dreams about. She got exactly what she deserves, I said firmly. A public spectacle that revealed her true priorities and values. Congratulations to all of you. You got great content for your social media. Make sure you post it with accurate captions about what actually happened here. I looked directly at Raven one final time. Do you want to know what I was actually planning before I overheard your video chat? I asked. She shook her head, still crying, but I could see she wanted to know. I reached into my inner jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, opened it slowly. Inside was my grandmother's Art Deco ring, modest but exquisitely beautiful. The diamond caught the streetlight with quiet elegance. Next month, I said softly, private dinner at my apartment, just the two of us. This ring, the one my grandmother wore with pride for 54 years of genuine marriage built on trust, communication, and authentic love. I was going to tell you the whole story of how my grandparents met, how my grandfather saved for months on a teacher's salary to buy this. How they built a beautiful life together based on partnership and mutual respect rather than likes and follower counts. I watched her face crumble as she processed the future she had destroyed. I was going to ask you to be my partner in building something equally real and meaningful, I said. Raven reached for the box, her hand trembling. I closed it deliberately and put it back in my pocket. But I cannot give this ring to someone who values carrots over character. I cannot give it to someone who values price tags over sentiment. I cannot build a life with someone who treats love like a transaction and relationships like content to be produced. Are you saying we are over? She whispered, the reality finally sinking in. I am saying you chose performance over partnership, I replied. You chose your friends' approval and social media validation over our trust and intimacy. You chose manipulation over communication. And when someone shows you who they really are through their choices and actions, you should believe them. I will cut them all off right now, she said desperately. I will never talk to any of them again. I will block them on everything. They did not force you to do anything, I said. They suggested an idea, but you enthusiastically embraced it. You planned it. You bought the prop. You assigned the positions. You got excited about capturing my humiliation. You own every bit of this. And even if you cut them all off tomorrow, I would always know that when you felt insecure and needed validation, you chose manipulation and public humiliation as your strategy. I would always wonder what other tests or schemes you would create the next time you felt uncertain. So that is it, she asked. 2 years together, and you're just throwing it all away over one night. You ended us the moment you bought that fake ring, I said. You ended us when you started planning this manipulation. You ended us when you decided our relationship was content to be produced rather than a partnership to be cherished. I turned and walked away. None of them followed me this time. The next morning, I woke up to 47 text messages, 23 missed calls, and countless notifications. The progression of Raven's messages was almost textbook. First came the desperate apologies. I know I messed up. Please call me back. We can fix this. I cannot lose you. Then came the bargaining and promises to change. I will go to therapy. I will delete my accounts. I will do whatever it takes. Then anger when she realized I was not responding. I cannot believe you are ignoring me after everything we have been through. This is cruel. When that did not work, she shifted to blaming her friends. My friends are toxic, and I am cutting them off completely. This is all their fault for putting these ideas in my head. Then more apologies mixed with guilt trips. You are being incredibly cold by not even giving me a chance to explain properly. I love you so much. Do not throw us away over one night. I deleted every single message without responding. By afternoon, multiple videos of the incident had spread across social media platforms. Sierra had tried posting her own edited version with a caption about manipulative men gaslighting women for having standards and knowing their worth. But the comments section quickly turned against her. Someone who had been dining at the restaurant had posted a full, unedited video with complete context, and that version had gone viral instead. It was shared on video apps, on social networks, and across message threads. Millions of views accumulated across platforms, with overwhelmingly supportive comments for my response. My phone would not stop buzzing with messages from people I had not talked to in years, friend from college, former coworkers, even distant relatives, all wanting to know if I was okay and expressing support. Some people wrote long messages about their own experiences with similar manipulation. A few said watching the video had convinced them to end their own unhealthy relationships. I turned the phone off completely and spent the rest of the day in quiet. The sudden silence felt like a luxury. I cooked myself dinner, sat on my balcony, and watched the city lights blink on one by one. For the first time in days, I let myself breathe all the way down into my chest instead of holding tension in my shoulders. 3 days later, flowers arrived at my apartment. Expensive, elaborate arrangements that probably cost hundreds of dollars. The card read, "I know I messed up worse than I can express. Please give me just one chance to prove I have changed and learn from this. I love you more than anything in this world. Raven." I looked at the arrangement for a few seconds, then threw the whole thing in the trash without a second thought. A week after the incident, a courier delivered a 5-page handwritten letter. I opened it and read the first paragraph. She wrote that she had cut off all her friends completely, blocked them on everything, started seeing a therapist twice a week, realized how unhealthy she had become, understood now that real love does not need testing or manipulation. The tone shifted between remorse and justification. I folded the pages back together and threw the rest away. Words on paper could not rebuild what she had broken. 2 weeks later, I learned through mutual friends that the entire friend group had imploded. Sierra had lost thousands of followers and multiple brand sponsorship deals, with companies publicly distancing themselves from her. Taylor had been fired from her social media manager position for demonstrating poor judgment and ethical lapses. Candace's fiancé had called off their wedding after seeing the video and realizing she had been bragging about manipulation as a strategy. Only Janelle had issued a genuine public apology, acknowledging her role and taking responsibility. She recorded a video in which she admitted she had been swept up in the excitement of it all, had ignored the voice in her head telling her it was wrong, and deeply regretted participating. Even that could not undo the damage to her reputation, but at least it sounded honest. 3 weeks after that night, at RPM Italian, I visited my mother in Oak Park for our regular Sunday dinner. She had heard about everything. The video had made its way through family networks and group chats. After we ate, she brought out a small box from her bedroom and set it on the table between us. "I saw the video," she said gently. "Your father would be proud of how you handled that situation." She opened the box and showed me my father's wedding band, which she still kept carefully wrapped in a piece of cloth. "He proposed to me in our tiny apartment kitchen," she said. "No audience, no performance, no expensive production, just honesty and love." That simple moment of authenticity lasted us 27 beautiful years until illness took him. What that girl wanted was not a marriage. It was a theatrical production for strangers. We sat in silence for a while after that. The kitchen light hummed softly overhead. My mother reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Do not let this make you cynical," she said. "Let it make you clearer about what you want and what you will not accept." I nodded. I was not sure yet how to do that, but I knew I had stepped through a door I would never go back through. 4 weeks after the incident, Raven appeared at my apartment building on Saturday evening. The doorman called up. "There is a Ms. Raven Taylor here to see you, sir. She says it is important." I hesitated for a moment, then told him I would come down. I met her in the lobby and refused to let her come up to my apartment. She looked genuinely devastated. Eyes tired, shoulders slumped, her usually immaculate appearance somewhat disheveled. "I have been in intensive therapy for a month now," she said as soon as she saw me. "I understand exactly what I did wrong and why it was so damaging. I have spent weeks dissecting how unhealthy I had become. I destroyed the best thing in my life." Her voice cracked on the last sentence. "I believe you understand that now," I said calmly. "Then why can we not try again?" she asked. Why can you not give me another chance to prove I have changed? Because understanding what you did wrong does not magically rebuild trust that has been completely shattered, I replied. It does not erase the fact that you valued content over genuine connection. It does not change that when you felt insecure, your first instinct was manipulation instead of honest communication. She shook her head. People change, she insisted. Relationships survive difficult moments all the time. Couples work through things that are painful. Those were not just difficult moments, Raven, I said. I keep trying to explain this to you. Mistakes are accidents, things that happen in a brief lapse. You spent days planning that scheme. You were excited about it. You cannot wait to see me humiliated. You discussed strategy with your friends like it was a project. That is not a mistake. That is revealing who you chose to be in that moment. And I cannot build a life wondering who you will choose to be the next time you feel insecure or need validation from others. So nothing I do will ever matter, she asked, tears streaming down again. I'm just judged forever for one bad decision. You are not judged forever, I said. You are just not my partner anymore. Take everything you have learned in therapy and be a better person for someone else. But the person who values authenticity and direct communication over games and manipulation, that is not who you were with me. And I cannot spend my life hoping you will eventually become that person or wondering when the next test will come. I love you, she whispered desperately. Past tense, I said. I loved you too. But that person, the one I loved, disappeared at RPM Italian when she rejected a fake ring she bought herself for content and attention. I stepped back toward the elevator. Through the glass doors, I could see her standing in the lobby crying, but I felt nothing except a distant sense of sadness for what could have been if she had made different choices. 3 months after that night at RPM Italian, I met someone named Serena Harper at a volunteer event serving meals at a shelter on the west side. She was direct, genuine, and refreshingly honest. We spent an hour side by side, filling plates, exchanging small talk, and laughing about a tray of rolls that refused to stay in a neat line. When the crowd thinned, we talked about work, family, and what had brought each of us there that day. When I eventually told her the whole story about Raven, her immediate reaction was simple and clear. Anyone who would do that to someone they say they love does not actually understand what love is, Serena said. That is not insecurity. That is calculated cruelty disguised as self-worth. There was no fascination with the viral aspect, no curiosity about the view count. She cared about the choices behind the behavior. Over the following weeks, we went on several genuine dates. Coffee at a small independent shop where the barista knew half the customers by name. An afternoon at the Art Institute downtown, where we took our time with each painting instead of rushing to take photos. Bike rides along the trail by the lake on clear days when the water looked like glass. No games, no tests, no performances, just two people learning about each other without an invisible audience. 6 months after that night, at RPM Italian, I was having drinks with my best friend, Reggie, at a tiki bar below street level in the Loop when he mentioned he had heard through mutual friends that Raven was dating someone new. Good for her, I said, and I meant it. I hope she has learned something and is treating him better than she treated me. That is surprisingly calm of you, Reggie said with a small smile. Most people would still be furious. I learned something crucial from that whole situation, I told him. My self-respect is not negotiable under any circumstances. Real love does not need testing or manipulation or public performances. And the right person will not ever make you prove your worth through humiliation or expensive displays. Reggie nodded slowly. Serena seems really great, by the way, he said. I like her a lot more than the previous one. She's great, I said. You know why? She actually talks directly about what she wants and needs. She uses her words like an adult instead of creating elaborate schemes. It is a simple concept, but apparently rare. Reggie laughed. Who knew honest communication could be so effective in relationships, he said. We clinked glasses and changed the subject. That night, alone in my apartment, I pulled out the velvet box one more time and looked at my grandmother's ring. The Art Deco diamond caught the light from my desk lamp, elegant and timeless. I thought about my grandparents' 54 years together, built on a foundation of trust and genuine partnership. I thought about how my grandfather would sit at the table, twisting the ring gently when he was thinking about something important. I knew I would propose to Serena in about 6 months. I decided to give us a full year of dating to really know each other. I pictured it clearly, a private and meaningful moment, maybe during a quiet dinner at my place or during a walk along the lake at sunset. No audience, no cameras, no performance for strangers. Just two people choosing each other honestly and authentically, the way my grandparents had. I put the ring back in the drawer, carefully. It would mean something beautiful again, given to someone who valued what it represented rather than what it cost. Raven had thought she was testing my love that night at RPM Italian. What she actually tested was my self-respect, my boundaries, my willingness to accept manipulation disguised as relationship strategy. I had passed that test by refusing to participate in the game. The ring my grandmother wore for 54 years of real marriage deserved better than someone who saw it as an embarrassing antique. It deserved someone who understood that the value of love is not measured in carats or social media metrics, but in trust, respect, and genuine partnership. And I deserved better than someone who would stage a public rejection of a fake ring for content. 6 months later, on a quiet evening in my apartment with only candlelight and soft music, I would ask Serena to marry me with that same ring, and she would say yes with tears of genuine joy, understanding exactly what it represented. Not just 54 years of my grandparents' love, but the choice to build something real with someone who valued authenticity over appearances. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.